The Deal, a South African film that's about gender-based violence and its effect on mental health. It also gives a snapshot of the life of a woman diagnosed with dementia. She is played by legendary singer Mam Abigail Gupega. And of course, the film also stars South African veterans such as Morena Mothupi. For more on The Deal, it's the writer and director Paul Modjadji who's joining us now. A very good morning to you, Paul, and thank you so much for your time. So it's incredibly important that this short film is coming through because it speaks about something that is a pandemic in South Africa. Just talk us through the reason why you decided that this was necessary and to put it in short film.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, Mo. I really appreciate it. For me, I think, there is something to be said about the way in which, we speak about GBV in the country, right? It's really comforting to know that it's something that receives, widespread attention, that we speak about it it's got really amazing coverage on the media. One of the things that I was really, really interested in doing with the film was to really speak to the different nuances of GBV. I think oftentimes we are so socialized into thinking about GBV as just this thing that happens, in very graphic terms where there is physical violence. And I was really keen to look at the nuances of GBV and to think about how that plays and is understood through the different generations. So throughout the film, you meet 5 men that represent, how GBV is understood and processed throughout the different generations for the different men, right? But it also signifies the different types of participation and complicity that we as men play along in this bigger issue and conversation. So essentially, we do hope that the film will stimulate much needed conversation around this, particularly on the side of men.
Abuti, you're addressing 3 different societal issues in this film. You're addressing GBV, which is the pandemic. You are addressing mental health. Of course, this is off of the back of GBV. So the mental health issues caused by GBV. But you're tackling mental health in general, which is its own issue. And then you're tackling dementia. How are you able to send the message through of all 3 societal issues, send the message through strongly and have people identify and, understand those 3 different problems all in a short film?
Essentially, these issues are all intersectional, and I think this is really the best way to think about, any of the issues that have to do with inequity, that one issue is never in isolation. So when you talk about someone who has been through some level of oppression, like our lead character Thandeka, she lives in a world where, at 18, all she really wants is to have access to higher education. And unfortunately, because she comes from a very low income family, she is then exposed to men who see that as something that can be weaponized and exploited. But Thandeka doesn't live in silos. She lives in a home, where there are other intersecting issues that come into play. So when we talk about unemployment or high levels of unemployment in the country, it seems like just stats. But essentially, this is a representation of what so many families live with, where children have to fend for themselves because somehow the parents don't have maybe, the means of income to support the family. And, what is the psychological effect on a young girl who is exposed to a relationship where they have to potentially consider, selling their body for survival or as means of accessing education? What is the psychological effect on that? And what's the psychological effect on that family, on the mom who later finds out that, the daughters had to go through this? So these issues, even though they seem like they're very different, they all, in the writing, seem to really connect in a very realistic, in a very intersectional way. They're all really connected.
Yeah. Paul, you're somebody who's worked, or rather continues to work in South African motion picture, and I'm sure you are exposed to the critique from the consumers of South African motion picture. And some of the critique is usually, why this actor? Why this actress? Why not this actor? Why not this actress? You've got Mam Abigail Gupega, you've got Morena Mothupi, you've got other South African talent in there. So talk to us about the idea behind that selection of that talent, and what they bring to this picture.
Yeah. I think one of the most incredible things about the casting of the film is that it almost chose its own cast, if that makes sense, because Ma'am Abigail Kubeka was cast in the role of, an old gogo who lives with dementia. And, as a veteran and a woman who's lived through the many ages, she was definitely age appropriate for the character and has the level of expertise that would allow us to understand this complex illness that is still very much misunderstood in South Africa. I mean, a lot of people really think of dementia as a natural way of aging, So it was really important that we get someone who's able to really make us understand and connect to what dementia is. And in that way, there was really no one better for the role. And, Dr. Jerry, again, represents a man of a certain age, So what does GBV look like, through the eyes of an old man in his 60s, So again, I believe, the casting itself, more than just the actors having read well, for the roles. And I mean, each actor had to literally go through some kind of reading for their role. And there was a lot of process and workshopping that went into the selection of the actors. But again, I do believe that, if, as and when you watch the film, you'll get to realize how, the story itself really chose its own cast.
Just very quickly before I let you go, Paul, what has been the reception from those who have had the pleasure of seeing it?
Look, I am really, really thrilled that we get to officially launch it in South Africa this month. It has received its Irish film premiere, which was in March this year, and the response was really overwhelmingly supportive and really well. We cannot wait to take it into the global market. I guess answer to that one, in as far as the local market is concerned, will be one I'll be able to fully answer after the launch on the 14th of February in South Africa.
Well done for this movie. Well done for putting something forward that, speaks of things that need to continue always being spoken about. GBV, mental health, and of course dementia, something that I think certain communities, certain environments don't address, don't take seriously, don't even think is an actual issue, social issue that needs to be dealt with. So well done, and we really do hope that the South African public does receive it as well as the Irish have received it. Thank you so much for joining us also on the South African Morning. That is writer and director of short film The Deal, Paul Modjadji. Now, still to